Sources say that the Atlanta Falcons are targeting to trade for a pass rusher by the end of the deadline. And in this video, I'm going to tell you not only who it is, but what can his impact have on the Atlanta Falcons going forward. Now, going back 2 or 3 steps, a lot of people around the Atlanta Falcons organization know that there is a need for additional pass rush. They went out and signed Matthew Judon, and it just hasn't been up to par, up to the standard of what they think they need for pass rushing. I also think it's a little bit of scheme, and the defensive scheme is keeping everything in front of them, which is not good for pass rush because you're giving up open shots and open plays. But beside the point, the Atlanta Falcons have still said, hey, we need to get pass rush. And Terry Fontenot is on his phone making calls and wheeling and dealing and trying to see what he can do before the upcoming deadline. Now, there's a couple names that I've thrown out previously: Hassan Reddick, Azeez Ojulari, and maybe Jadeveon Clowney. But I am hearing from sources, now you may say, oh, you don't have a source, but I'm hearing that they are actually targeting Cleveland Browns edge Za'Darius Smith. Now, what can Za'Darius Smith bring, and what would this do from a contractual standpoint to impact the Atlanta Falcons? Now, number one, Za'Darius Smith right now, currently in this as of this point, I think has 3 sacks on the season. He is a guy that can get after it, and we've seen some of this in his Minnesota days. And he is a player that I think will play along well with what the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish going forward. Now, in regards to contractual agreement, Za'Darius Smith, I think, is on a 2-year. He had a 2-year extension this year. He's basically making between $12 and $15 million a year. So I don't think that would be an issue from a salary cap standpoint for the Atlanta Falcons. You get a guy 2-year contract, $12 million. If he can give you 6 to 8 plus sacks, there you go. Now, production, Za'Darius Smith is actually pretty up there in regards to production. Prior to this season, he really hadn't had a season less than 7 sacks. He's really averaging between 7 and 13 sacks on the season for his last few seasons, and he is actually a sack master. And when he's not getting sacks, he's also putting a lot of pressure on the QB, which is something that can complement Matthew Judon, but also Arnold Ebiketie well. He also can play the run pretty well, and he is what you say an all-around player for, I think, a pretty good value. Now, what this means for the Atlanta Falcons going forward, I think they should be knocking on the door trying to sign Za'Darius Smith. No, it's not the Hassan Reddick. No, it's not your big, flashy, Max Crosby. But this could be a player that you can add immediate value to a team that has aspirations of making a deep playoff run. And also with Za'Darius Smith, I think this may go underrated, but you won't have to give up that much for him. The Cleveland Browns traded for him 2 years ago, I think, and they gave up 2023, and they gave up 2 5th-round picks, but then they got a 6 and 7 in return. So I think going rate for him right now is probably a 6th-round pick, and the reason why I think that for Cleveland is because they suck, and they're going to be probably choosing in the top 5. And they're going to have to make a decision coming real soon on how they want to rebuild this team. Amari Cooper's still on the team. They're probably going to have to get rid of. And so if they decide to go and rebuild, they need assets, draft capital, and forget a 6th-rounder for Za'Darius Smith, who probably won't be there after the following year. I think that's a good value. So Atlanta Falcons need to be aggressive in signing Za'Darius Smith, I think. And I think that is a player that a lot of people aren't putting in the tabloids as a trade target. A lot of people aren't really talking about, but this is an underrated guy who's had 3 sacks already in the season and could get you that 6 to 8 sacks and would pair very, very well with Matthew Judon coming across the edge. But if you agree or disagree with me, if you think Za'Darius Smith is a bum or a good player, let me know. And if you want to see more videos like this one, check this one out right here. And like always, peace.